Good evening and welcome. You're on board the Newstrack. I'm Rahul Gandhi. Is Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra the big idea the Congress has been desperately waiting for? Or is this the ultimate case of misplaced priorities? You've got a big election in Himachal Pradesh, you've got a big election in Gujarat. Rather than concentrating his energies where it really matters on the electoral battlefield, he's in Kanyakumari traveling all the way up when the action is in the west and in the north. We'll look at that and more on the Newstrack. Let's get started.
Is Bharat Jodo Rahul's Revival Yatra? Rahul's road to 2024 begins. Biggest move to save splintering Congress. Last ditch effort before elections. Can Rahul be opposition magnet? Big focus on Newstrack.
Over 3,500 kilometers, 12 states and 5 months. Congress's Bharat Jodo Yatra kicked off from Kanyakumari today. The Yatra is being seen as a big Congress muscle flex against BJP and Prime Minister Modi. But as Rahul Gandhi hits the road, there are other regional leaders that have made their national ambitions clear. Can Rahul relaunch himself and his party ahead of the 2024 battle with this big Yatra?
There begins a political odyssey. Rahul Gandhi sets out on a 5-month, 3,570-kilometer march. From Kanyakumari down south to Kashmir up north. A trek named Bharat Jodo Yatra aims to revive Congress's sagging fortunes and bolster its secular ideology in the face of the BJP's overwhelming Hindutva narrative.
Bharat Jodo Yatra because Bharat is being todoed on 3 counts. It's being todoed because of economic inequalities, it is being splintered on account of social polarization, and it's under great tension because of political over-centralization.
The Yatra covers 12 states in 150 days, but skips pole-bound Gujarat and Himachal Pradesh.
Yes, this is not a Padayatra, this is cycling. We are coming from Kerala.
I'm saying this is a Padayatra, so you've come to show your support to this Yatra?
We are expressing your gratitude for our Bharat Jodo Yatra with our Rahul Gandhi.
Congress's solo bid to lift itself out of an existential crisis at the national level coincides with a sudden surge in anti-BJP regional leaders reaching out to each other across the Indian map. Be it Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal meeting his Tamil Nadu counterpart M.K. Stalin, Telangana's K. Chandrasekhar Rao meeting Bihar's Nitish Kumar in Patna, and the same Nitish Kumar meeting various anti-BJP leaders, Rahul Gandhi and his arch-rival Kejriwal included.
अधिक से अधिक विपक्ष अगर एकजुट हो जाएगा तो बहुत अच्छा होगा। इसके लिए जो हम लोगों का सहयोग होगा हम लोग करेंगे।
The idea of a unified opposition ahead of the 2024 elections is being played out at multiple levels. In March, West Bengal Chief Minister Mamta Banerjee wrote to opposition leaders and chief ministers of non-BJP ruled states to come together on a common platform against the Saffron Party. After his Aam Aadmi Party's landslide in Punjab, Kejriwal on his part has also been pitching himself as a national alternative.
तो अगले 75 साल और भारत पिछड़ा ही रह जाएगा.
The day Rahul Gandhi launched his Bharat Jodo Yatra, the Aam Aadmi Party chief embarked on a Make India #1 campaign from Hisar in Haryana. The two events by two political adversaries, but with similar national catchphrases. Seeding individual ambitions and leadership position holds the key to achieving what still seems to be an elusive opposition unity a year and a half ahead of the general elections. With Supriya Bharadwaj in Kanyakumari, Bureau Report, India Today.
Even before the Bharat Jodo Yatra started, politics exploded. The BJP called the Congress's nationwide campaign a drama. Robert Vadra, who put out Yatra campaign posters featuring himself, which added fuel to the raging political fire. The BJP started sniping at the Congress, saying the Yatra is actually more about Parivar Jodo.
Congress's 3,500-kilometer Bharat Jodo Yatra is witnessing raging politics. Priyanka Gandhi Vadra's husband and businessman Robert Vadra sparking a big row after featuring in the Congress Yatra posters. The posters sparked speculations about Vadra's possible entry into Congress amid series of exodus. The BJP slammed the Congress, calling Rahul's Yatra as a Parivar Jodo initiative aimed at rehabilitating the Nehru-Gandhi family.
This is not about Bharat Jodo. This is about Parivar ko jodo. This is about Bhrashtachariyon ko jodo. From north to south, east to west. Rahul ko netritva se jodo.
While Congress termed the Yatra a transformational moment for Indian politics, BJP MP Ravi Shankar Prasad, in a scathing attack, called it a drama.
जो नाटक है, ये जो छलावा है, ये जो दिखावा है, इसको देश के आगे बताना जरूरी है कि ये परिवार को बचाने की यात्रा है. ये परिवार का पार्टी पर नियंत्रण बना रहे, उसके लिए यात्रा है.
This is not a Man Ki Baat Yatra. It's a Janta Ki Chinta Yatra. What are the issues that people are concerned with, the day-to-day issues that people, want the Congress party and other political parties to agitate for, to protest, to raise in Parliament and outside.
Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma slammed the Congress for dividing the country in 1947 and advised Rahul Gandhi to carry on his yatra in Pakistan.
कांग्रेस का समय में तो भारत दो टुकड़ा हो ही गया था. अभी भारत जोड़ने के लिए तो कांग्रेस को पाकिस्तान जाना है.
हिमंता बिस्वा शर्मा आजकल जहर उगलने का काम करते हैं. भारतीय जनता पार्टी के लोग कहते हैं कि सारे मुसलमान को पाकिस्तान दे दो और पाकिस्तान को अखंड भारत में मिला लो. यदि मिलाएंगे, आज मान लो 20 करोड़ मुसलमान हैं, तो बांग्लादेश, पाकिस्तान, अफगानिस्तान मिलाने के बाद तो 40-50 करोड़ हो जाएगा. तो उतने में तो फिर इनकी और हालत खराब हो जाएगी.
Congress leaders also made a fresh clamor for installing Rahul Gandhi as the party chief, despite the upcoming internal polls.
हम चाहते हैं कि वो अध्यक्ष बनते हैं. हम सब लोग मिलके राजनीति में कार्यकर्ता जो है कांग्रेस के, सब मिलके हम लोग कोई कमी नहीं आने देंगे और उनके नेतृत्व में कांग्रेस मजबूत होगी, आगे बढ़ेगी और चुनौती जितनी भी है उसका मुकाबला करने में कोई कमी नहीं रखेंगे.
Each and every Congress worker across the nation, they are vociferously demanding the leader of our party, Rahul Gandhi ji, to take the charge of Congress party anew.
So can this yatra help the Congress in upcoming state elections and stop the exodus of loyalists? Or will it be just another bid to relaunch Rahul's lackluster political career? With Supriya Bharadwaj and Mausami Singh in Kanyakumari, Bureau Report, India Today.
Can the Congress's Bharat Jodo Yatra be the revival launchpad that Rahul Gandhi and the Congress have been hoping for? Or is this a perfect case of misplaced priorities? There's a big election in Gujarat. There's an election in Himachal Pradesh. That's where the real political action is. Rahul Gandhi, all the way from Kanyakumari up to the north, on this 150-day, 12-state, 3,570-kilometer yatra. Joining me on the Newstrack, I want to welcome, representing the Congress, Meeta Chakravarti. Squaring off against her, we've got Syed Zafar Islam, spokesperson of the BJP. Jasmine Shah represents the Aam Aadmi Party. We've got Sanjay Jha, political analyst, commentator. Rashid Kidwai understands the ins and outs of the Congress better than most. So let me start by asking Meeta Chakravarti first. When there is a big election happening in Gujarat and Arvind Kejriwal is spending half his time in Gujarat trying to expand his party's base in a state where their presence on the ground is much lesser than that of the Congress, which is the principal opposition party, at least was till the last elections. Your leader instead has gone off to Kanyakumari to start this Bharat Jodo Yatra. Is this the revival launch project that Rahul Gandhi was waiting for, or is this a classic case of misplaced priorities?
Good evening to all your viewers and some uninterrupted time, please. You are right that there are elections around the corner in the states of Gujarat and Himachal Pradesh, and the state units are working and completely focused on this election activities. The national leaders, including Mr. Rahul Gandhi, will be also joining the campaign. As you know that Rahul Gandhi was in Gujarat earlier this week, and also during the campaign process as well, he is going to take certain breaks from the Yatra, and he would be joining and he would be campaigning in these states as well. So the election machinery in both these states are well geared, and they are completely focused in handling.
Ma'am, I don't know what you're talking about. I was in Gujarat personally a few days ago. Your election machinery is the furthest thing from well geared. Who's in charge?
Okay,
How are you rolling out your campaign? The level of motivation of your own party leaders is abysmally low. There is a complete lack of direction in the Gujarat Assembly election as far as the Congress party is concerned. And you've got the AAP, which is on your heels, trying to establish itself as the opposition party there.
There was a similar prediction made in the year 2017 as well, and the results are known. We gave a very, very close fight. It was 80 and 99, and there were many constituencies where the difference, the winning margin of the BJP MLAs was less than 2,500 votes. So this time also, we are going to put up a strong fight. We are there to fight the election, to win the election. The Bharat Jodo Yatra, however, is a pan-India yatra, and it's not only meant to target the elections. It is a yatra where we are fighting against three forms of inequalities in India. First, the economic inequality. We see that while we have industrialists from our nation claiming to be one of the richest in the world, we also have India ranking at 101st position in the Global Hunger Index. We see how much economic inequality is there in the country, with growing unemployment, with growing inflation rates, which are all government data. These are data that the government of the day cannot refute. Then we see social and communal polarization across the country. We see a growing rise in hate speech. The way the entire community, the entire country is being polarized along the religious and caste lines, along the lines of what you want to eat, how you want to lead your life, your lifestyle choices. Then we see over-centralization of power. We see political inequality. We see how central investigating agencies are being used as tools of political negotiation and political intimidation against voices of
Hold that thought. You've laid the grounds for this debate. Let me go across to Rashid Kidwai on what's the real thinking within the Congress. Is this just a preparation for Rahul Gandhi to once again take over as Congress president? He said he doesn't want to, but anybody in Rahul Gandhi's camp says no, that's just posturing. Actually, he's getting set to take over again, and that's what will happen when the elections are actually rolled out. Is that what we are building up to? To what extent is he being able to attract members from civil society, which seems to be one of the key ideas that the Congress has, that it's more than a Congress Yatra, bring others on board. What's your broad sense? Is this a revival launchpad or a case of misplaced priority?
I think, Rahul, my take is slightly different. I think, people of India in Rahul Gandhi's scheme of things is looking for a national alternative to Narendra Modi, whether it will happen in 2024 or later in 2009, 2029. Age is on Rahul Gandhi's side. So he is going on a yatra which is away from the internal kind of, power struggle or disquiet within the organization, because he thinks that for voters it is inconsequential. You see who heads the Congress party, and I think that's where it's a fascinating part. It depends whether later this one we'll get to know who would file nomination paper for Congress president post. If there is someone other than Rahul Gandhi, then it will lead to a very interesting phase. Interesting why I'm saying, because there will be someone who will be handling the organizational matters, and there will be someone who will be working on a very a larger canvas. And I think Yatra is one such thing with the help of civil society. Rahul has understood that Yatra is high on optics, perhaps low on substance. You are right about Gujarat and Himachal and all that. So Rahul Gandhi wants to keep himself away from, because this is an exam he has given numerous occasions and he has failed. Whether it was in Kerala in 2021 or Assam or Uttarakhand or Punjab. He wants Congress to be accountable for it. Congress for accountable for its performance, while Rahul Gandhi is chalking his own course. So this is something I find it rather interesting and fascinating.
But it also sounds devoid of any connection with real politics. He wants to keep him away from the fortunes of the Congress, wants to set his own course. Who heads the party is inconsequential. Now some of this, Rahul Srivastav, just seems so idealistic that you've got Kejriwal, who hardly had any stakes in Gujarat. He is giving it his all, making it seem as if AAP is coming to power, which it isn't in Gujarat at this moment. That is out of the question in terms of just the reality of electoral dynamics. But he's still fighting that fight. And Rahul Gandhi, whose party could have a chance after so many terms of opposition, of being in the opposition with anti-incumbency building up, actually thinks he's playing some bigger game.
See, Rahul, this is the problem with the Congress. Most of its campaigns, if you see, they are macro campaigns. They're macro level, large in idea, but it lacks that micro elements that actually fix elections for you or fixes your politics. So macro campaign, huge, large templates, but they lack that acute micro elements that are related to the ground. Now this focus is price rise, democratic problems and others. It definitely will be an attempt by the Congress party to present Rahul Gandhi as a serious, committed politician, which people used to say that he is not. But does it go beyond that, as we have been discussing, that you are not touching Himachal and Gujarat, you are touching on strongholds. So a tailor-made campaign for Rahul Gandhi, which could project him, is largely touching on strongholds. You are still not tackling those areas which are your weaknesses. So what is a leader who does not take on the weaknesses through a yatra which is unprecedented in Congress history?
What the Congress needs is micro booth management. You've got the BJP Sanjay Jha working on a strategy of Panna Pramukhs in every booth. The Congress says you need a big idea, Bharat Jodo. BJP is Bharat Todo. Do you think that this rally could gain traction and could be the big idea Rahul Gandhi is waiting for, or is it just completely cut away from the reality of politics, which should have had the Congress going all out in Gujarat or at least in Himachal, where it actually has or had a chance?
Well, Rahul, I'm not as skeptical or cynical as much as Rashid and Rahul have been in terms of their early comments on the Bharat Jodo Yatra. I believe the Congress party has to play both sides of the coin. It has to create a pan-India compelling narrative where it has been conspicuously absent for a considerable time, which has allowed the BJP to actually, kind of completely have a stranglehold on whatever they want to, kind of message for the voters. So it has to create a narrative, and to that extent, Bharat Jodo is a powerful catch line. I was, talking to some Congress people. I won't tell you who they are, but they are positioning it as a second freedom struggle. We defeated the British's policy of divide and rule, and now we will possibly expose the BJP's equally similar political strategy of divide and rule in terms of a social dynamics. On the other hand, you are absolutely right. The Congress also has to do the transactional nuts and bolts politics of Gujarat and Himachal. In my opinion, and I second you on that, Gujarat is very, very critical for the Congress, because if you really, humble the lion in his own den, or rather beard the lion in his own den, I have a feeling that the Modi-Shah duo will, frankly speaking, collapse much faster. And I think that's an opportunity, because let me tell you, a lot of people feel that Gujarat has always been a cakewalk, Shah and Modi understand Gujarat and, it's like a fait accompli. I don't think so. I know many people from Gujarat and Mumbai and different parts of India who want change in Gujarat.
Can I just tell you
inability in
that
Gujarat
there is no election which is a cakewalk?
Yeah.
As the top BJP leadership of the moment says, election banane pe banta hai. Nothing is cast in stone. Every single voter in every booth matters, every constituency matters. And you've got Rahul Gandhi at this moment on an important yatra from his perspective, but a yatra which doesn't impact the political reality. Imagine for a moment if by some chance the Congress mounts a big campaign and had been able to beat the BJP in Gujarat. What kind of a narrative would that have set in terms of Rahul's ability to lead the Congress? That is real politics. This idea of Britishers, Bharat Chodo, BJP, Bharat Chodo, how do you translate this, the efficacy of that yatra? Did it succeed? Did it not succeed? I mean, the likes of Meeta Chakravarti will say it's a fantastic yatra. BJP will say it's a rubbish yatra. How do you judge it? You judge it in an election. That's the reality. And that's the piece that Rahul Gandhi doesn't seem to get. You want to make another point before I go across? Yes, Sanjay, very quickly.
Yeah, Rahul, I'm making it quickly because I may have to leave in the next 10 minutes. You see, remember one thing, thanks to television, social media, you know, today the communication of what you do in, say, Trivandrum or what you do in Karnataka, it will flow through in different parts of India. I do believe for the Congress Party's communication cell, Jairam, you know, the other people in the team, if they can actually try and, you know, create a nice hybrid communication model where the national story also flows into the state, and the national leaders are not ignoring the absolutely critical contests in Himachal and Gujarat, I think then the Congress will be leveraging the entire Padayatra.
Okay, let's hear from the BJP and the AAP. I'll start with Syed Zafar Islam. What are you thinking of this Bharat Jodo Yatra? Do you think that this could be the big idea which could potentially set Rahul Gandhi up? Or are you just lapping it up, loving it because he's far away from the action and this is what you want? If he's your principal contender, if the Congress is the party which is the principal opposition and they're busy in Kanyakumari, that suits the BJP more than anyone else.
Rahul, I don't know what he's trying to fix. We have a united country. India is a united and there is nothing which is required to fix. Basically, if you really want to understand whatever reference they are giving, of prior 1947, then he should start his yatra from Pakistan or Bangladesh or elsewhere, but not from Kanyakumari or any part of the country. Away from that, let me tell you, this is merely a stunt which will backfire on Congress and its leadership, because they are simply trying to divert the attention, which everybody knows that they are out on bail, they are deeply into corruption, and they really want to get away from this time people are discussing about, so they have taken a new issue away from politics so that people will not discuss about it. See, we are not overly concerned and we are not overly concerned purely because, or worried, purely because even if he is there, he has been in every election, but you know the outcome of every election. Successively he has met with defeat and not one. Maybe 22 elections.
But that's the point. Meeta Chakravarti, Rahul Gandhi is the ideal opponent that Messrs. Modi and Shah would like to be against. You kind of build him up, ensure that he somehow is convinced, the Congress is convinced that he should be your face in 2024. Modi and Shah will say, bring it on, that's exactly what we want, because the moment you got Rahul in the fray, dynasty, incompetence, non-serious politicians, all that comes back to the fray, and the BJP can punch him and take him down to the ground.
Okay, can I just answer this with simple data? Rahul Gandhi was the president.
I need to leave in a couple of minutes.
Yes, go on.
Okay, so can I answer you,
go on,
Mr. Rahul? So, Rahul Gandhi was the Congress president in 2018, and in recent years, 2018 was the most successful year the Congress party had seen. We went on to win elections in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh. We also formed the government in states like Karnataka. And before that, in 2018, we had done, in 2017, we had done actually very good results in Gujarat Assembly elections, where we gave the ruling party a very, very close contest. So to say that Rahul Gandhi has been only about failure is actually factually incorrect. There is a narrative that is being planted by sections of media, by people in the BJP
there is a plethora of failure
and he is reluctant.
Littered with the odd success. That's the reality.
I have given you
Madam,
factual reference.
If you go out and bat 100 times, one day you'll score a century. Look at what happened in the other 99 innings. In the other 99 innings, he's been clean bowled by the BJP largely. That is the reality. Okay, 1 second. I want to go across to Jasmine Shah. Jasmine, what is the AAP thinking of what Rahul Gandhi is doing? Is this good news for you that he's busy in Kanyakumari traveling up north while you guys are on the ground in Gujarat?
I don't think, Rahul, we take what Congress is doing as seriously as is the case with the rest of the nation, because let's not forget, you can do all kinds of yatras, but eventually it's about the message and it's about the messenger. What is the message Congress is giving? Bharat Jodo, but kaise jodenge? Today people do not believe what vision, what hope Congress has to offer for the future of this country. And let me not even talk about the messenger. They have not been able to select a leader for themselves for the last 3 years, but yet they want to give a run in 2024 election. At the same time, Aam Aadmi Party today, Mr. Arvind Kejriwal launched the Make India #1 mission. He started out with launching it in Hisar in Haryana, which is his birthplace. And the message is very clear that, we have wasted 75 years in politics as usual. We know what is needed to make our country a superpower, a developed country. We need education, we need health, we need jobs for our youth, we need safety and security for women, and we need prosperity for our farmers. Why is it that none of the political parties are talking or doing anything about this? Aam Aadmi Party today, the message sticks because we have done it. We have done it in Delhi, we are doing it in Punjab, and as far as messenger, Mr. Arvind Kejriwal today enjoys unparalleled credibility. People across the country who must have thought that in Gujarat today Aam Aadmi Party would have got such a response. You look at his rallies, lakhs of people are attending it. And that is what separates up from Congress or any other. I don't want to compare ourselves with Congress. Today, the people of India want hope. They want optimism. They don't want to always talk about jod tod ki politics, opposition unity, this, that. No, they want to know what is your message. How will you improve their life? How will you deliver on their aspirations? And unfortunately, and fortunately for us, it is only the Aam Aadmi Party today that is striking a chord with the hearts of people across the country.
In the way that things are at this moment, is this yatra likely to be a success? Is it likely to be a grand flop? Let's go around the table and ask our guest this question. I'll start with Rashid Kidwai. Your sense on whether you think this yatra has what it takes to succeed, or do you think it will just be another damn squib like many that Rahul has delivered?
I think both sides will keep claiming, kind of victory for 150 days. You see, the BJP and a section of media would keep targeting him because whatever Rahul Gandhi does or says, it's unconvincing for them. So from 2011 onwards, I have seen that Rahul Gandhi is portrayed in a certain light. He's seen as he's projected as some kind of non-serious kind of politician, and that kind of tools will continue to operate. And from Congress point of view, they will try to show that, how much support he's getting. On day one, he got MK Stalin support, and, when he entered Karnataka, what kind of crowd. That's why I'm saying Yatra is something you cannot quantify, unlike an election result where you can say, which political party got, how many seats. A yatra is something which is very utopian, it's very abstract, it can go on, both sides will claim victory.
That's an important point you make. So, Sanjay Jha, how will we determine whether this yatra is a success or a failure? For me, ultimately you need to take your party to power in elections. If a leader can deliver, everything else can work around it. If you can't lead your party to power in a state like Gujarat, Himachal or any other election, then you can't possibly claim that you're a success, because how do you validate whether somebody is a success or a failure? That largely happens through the elections. How will you be judging the success or failure of the yatra?
Well, Rahul, in very simple terms, you're absolutely right. In the long term, it has to deliver electoral dividends. And, Himachal and Gujarat are short term because they're right.
But in the long term, we're all dead.
No, but I'll tell you what I mean by that. What I mean is that the next India Today survey that comes out after, let's say, the Bharat Jodo Yatra is over in the next 6 months, it should show a perceptible upswing for the Congress.
But that's perception. How do you measure perception? Ultimately, it is through validation in an election. If he's not winning any election, even if this yatra leads to an uptick in the mood of the nation ratings, which it potentially could, it doesn't count for very much. He has to take the Congress to power in an election.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you, which is what I was planning to say, that the elections to Karnataka, in my opinion, would be defining, but the Congress has to at the same time ensure that the political messaging during the next, during the entire 3,570 kilometers over the next 150 days, the Congress party must make every day count. I totally disagree with the way Aam Aadmi Party, in a very contemptuous indifference has written off the Congress, I can tell you that this political arrogance will cost them.
No, but it's not arrogance. It serves them to project the Congress as being weak. They say the Congress doesn't matter. That's the message they'll hammer home in the hope that people start believing it, which is how voters could potentially shift from the Congress to the AAP. That is natural. But just one second, Rahul Srivastava, and I want to draw a cricketing analogy. It's a bit like the Asia Cup. You can be batting in the nets with a high altitude mask and thinking that you're playing all the right shots. But when the match starts, when you're playing Sri Lanka, when you're playing Pakistan, can you score at that time? Can you take your team to power? That is what matters most, and that Rahul Gandhi doesn't seem to get. This Yatra by itself will change nothing.
See, Rahul, why it will not change anything? If you see why this Yatra, I think that's where lies the catch. Is it a Yatra to launch a political offensive, or is it a Yatra for regaining lost ground on a defensive? What Rahul Gandhi is doing through this Yatra is not just sending a signal to BJP, electorate and others. I think the real idea is also to retain that space as a principal opposition party, to create a buzz back about the Congress party. There are so many PM aspirants today. He wants to keep the Congress in the race. When you fight a battle like this, the problem for the party is that it wants to regain lost ground. The Congress
no, but they're not even going into weak areas. They're largely going through areas of strength. You have to go to the weaker areas.
Only for the defensive, Rahul. There is no political charm about an offensive being launched, something which has a charm that there is a challenge.
Like the BJP going into Mamata Banerjee's den and challenging her in West Bengal.
Telangana, for example, there you have no seats. You have got Tamil Nadu. Rahul Gandhi is playing at the safe basis, basically to retain this. It is sending out a signal to the Kejriwals and Mamata Banerjee. See, the Congress is still the principal opposition player. We want that ground. I think it lacks that effort that we are trying to, जैसे हिंदी में कहते हैं कि एक पत्थर तो तबीयत से उछालो यारों. I think this lacks that kind of
Chakrabarti, respond to Rahul Srivastava's point. It's a defensive game he's playing. He needs to be aggressive. He needs to attack the lion in his own den, prove that he can take the lion down. Only then will he win his spurs. He's going through areas of strength, trying to retain what little ground the Congress has left.
Okay, I need to make a couple of very quick points. Firstly, Congress, even in 2019, when we did not perform well, we had close to 20% vote share nationally, and even today we have about 753 MLAs. We are in the second position. And all the other regional parties, with no disrespect to anyone, their national vote share will be much lower than 5%. So the difference is very, very significant. To say that there can be any meaningful opposition pan-India to the current ruling dispensation of BJP without Congress playing a vital role in it is living in a fool's paradise. So that's my point that I want to make about being the principal opposition party. Number two, what are we trying to achieve in this Bharat Jodo Yatra? In this Yatra, before the Yatra started, we reached out to 150 civil organizations who have given their support to this idea of Yatra. Many of these civil groups were actually groups that were opposed to the Congress rule during UPA 2 in 2012 and 2013. So we are not only connecting.
They're trying to get the civil groups on board. Now that could be a big idea if it works out. Let me put that question to Syed Zafar Islam. They're trying to get civil society groups. So if it becomes a Congress plus Yatra, that you've got the Congress, you've got the allies like the likes of DMK, NCP and the others who are on board with the UPA, and you've got civil society which is anti-Modi, anti-BJP, then it is BJP versus the rest. It becomes much bigger than just Rahul Gandhi, and Rahul Gandhi becomes a symbol of anti-Modiism or anti-BJPism.
Not at all, Rahul. If you just analyze it carefully, you will see that Rahul Gandhi does not find receptiveness in whatever he says to the people of this great country. He may choose constituencies where he'd want to do the Yatra safe constituency, yet at the end of the day, he has to find some element of receptiveness when he speaks to the people. But there is no connect. In fact, people do not take him seriously unless whenever the Yatra is successful, when you have a leader who is seen as a leader by the masses and who has the charisma and the political will to take on other political parties, and he lacks on everything. He doesn't have a charisma like the Honorable Prime Minister has. He is not seen as a leader by its own party leadership. many of the party leaders will not accept him as a leader. So in that case, I don't think that people will take him seriously. Secondly, when it comes to principal opposition parties, I think even if he is targeting 2024 and general election, but he has to see that he cannot on his own, or Congress party on his own, take on Bharatiya Janata Party and his allies, who potential allies like AAP. See what the kind of criticism they have for Rahul Gandhi and his Congress party. So it will be met with a big failure, and I can say with conviction that it will backfire on them.
Okay, I'll leave it over there. We don't want to prejudge what ultimately happens, because in politics nothing is cast in stone. Depending on what the government does, the opposition can spring back to life or just fall apart. So it's not just Rahul Gandhi, it's also a lot of what is happening externally and what voters think of what's going on. So we will look dispassionately in a non-partisan fashion at this Yatra, report and track it for you. But for the time being, to my guests for joining me on the Newstrack, thank you very much. 72 hours and counting. There's still no respite for flood-ravaged Silicon Valley of India, Bengaluru, which continues to reel under the aftermath of incessant rain. And there seems to be more to come. The Met Department has issued a yellow alert. The question that Bengalurians are asking is, will there be more misery over the next few days?
Days since torrential rains lashed the city, Bengalurians are still struggling to cope with the disastrous aftermath in the IT hub and lake bed areas. While there is some respite in the rain today, the misery of India's Silicon Valley residents continues. Waterlogging, pothole-ridden streets, open manholes and crippling traffic snarls have become the new reality for areas around the lakes.
We have to go to the office, but it is raining since last 3 days or full night. Cabs जो है वो कोई बुक नहीं हो रही. आधे घंटे से हम कैब बुक कर रहे हैं, लेकिन कैब यहाँ पे बुक नहीं हो रही और ट्रैफिक तो बहुत ही खतरनाक है यहाँ पे.
Exams are going on. They postponed the exams after 1 week, and now they are doing online class again, which is a big stress for kids also, and those who are working people who has to come for office.
You can see here the conditions of the road here is so pathetic that the road had to be barricaded. Now see how difficult it's for a heavy vehicle like a bus to pass by from this road. Almost it touches the footpath and goes towards the road. So this is where the traffic snarls happen. This is the reason why traffic snarls happen. This is the condition of some of the areas of the Bangalore road, because they have been washed away due to the heavy rainfall.
Several villas in the upscale localities of Bengaluru have been abandoned as they remain submerged in floodwater. Residents taking shelter with friends and family or holed up in hotels.
There is Aam Aadmi Party workers as well as leaders who are heading towards this place and searching for a place where there is flooded, and probably they might protest now against this particular flooding. Many places the water has receded, but still the activists and politicians as well as the media is finding place to report where there are places which is still untouched by BBMP, place where still there is flooding. The water is more than knee level in Bengaluru. It is high time that the civic authority had to wake up and address this issue.
Chief Minister Bommai, top ministers and civic officials visited flood-hit areas on the outer ring road. The Chief Minister openly accepted that the city's infrastructure was not designed to handle such torrential rainfall.
ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿನಲ್ಲಿ 164 ಕೆರೆಗಳಿದ್ದಾವೆ, ಎಲ್ಲವೂ ಕೂಡ ತುಂಬಿದ್ದಾವೆ. ಈ ತರದ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಹಿಂದೆಂದೂ ಇತಿಹಾಸದಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಈ ಯಾವುದೇ ಕೆರೆಗಳಿಗೆ ಸ್ಲೂಸ್ ಗೇಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಹೀಗಾಗಿ ಅವು ತುಂಬಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಅವೆಲ್ಲ ನಿರಂತರವಾಗಿ ಜನವರಿಯಿಂದ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬರೋ ಮಳೆಯಿಂದ ಅವೆಲ್ಲ ಮಳೆಯಿಂದ ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತು, ಕೆರೆನೂ ತುಂಬಿತ್ತು. ಈಗ ಬಿದ್ದ ಮಳೆಯಿಂದ, ಕಳೆದ ಒಂದು ವಾರ ಬಿದ್ದ ಮಳೆಯಿಂದ ಈಗ ಅವೆಲ್ಲವೂ ತುಂಬಿ ಹರಿತಾ ಇದೆ.
The political blame game continues, with the Karnataka Congress chief slamming the Chief Minister for blaming the past Congress government.
This is done because of maladministration and totally unplanned administration of the previous government, Congress government.
What Congress has done, party has given, government is there with him, let it do it. Otherwise, let it leave the government, let there be a president rule. We know that we will come to power, we will solve the problem.
Congress Rajya Sabha MP Randeep Singh Surjewala has tweeted a video of Bengaluru floods, blaming Bommai's inaction for civic apathy.
It's difficult to believe, but this is a road which goes to one of the housing societies in Bengaluru. Rains have stopped, but water is yet to recede. There are many areas in Bengaluru which have the same story. There has been unplanned construction near stormwater drains which have led to waterlogging in these residential societies. The residents have now been evacuated, but the question they ask, where was the administration when these things were built, and what will happen now? With camera person Prashant Bhatt, Mustafa Sheikh in Bengaluru for India Today.